Hi, everyone. Thanks for checking back in. I just finished a video, so I'm doing a second video. This one, I want to dive more into exactly how XJW Coming Out, this channel, its origin, how it started, and then what the crowdfund was like, how that whole experience went. That brought us the feature film Witness Underground and the launch of our Patreon channel that all of these videos live on. They live on YouTube, are actually, but we have a paywall on Patreon to help support the project. But I want to give a quick shout out because in the last video I said I was going to show the book by Denise Wise and her author name, Isis All Things, but it's Rising from the Ashes of Jehovah's Witnesses. In this book is a great memoir and story from a real life experience from the female perspective of a European woman who, I guess I don't want to do a full book review because I'm not really prepared to do that, but I do want to say that you should check out her book, and I think it's a good value for in that it gives a great experience from a woman's perspective, which I don't think there's a lot of. There's a lot of men who have channels on YouTube, and we don't really understand. Men don't understand, but we don't really, as an audience, get the perspective of a female, and she's gone through a lot already. She's not. She's was a young woman in the religion. She had a child, raised that child, who's now a young woman, and but the author had a whole life in the music industry after leaving the religion, and is now writing and traveling more and doing retreats. The book gets into a little of all of that. It's very hopeful, and it has the last 8 chapters of the book deal a lot with how to tell a cult from another group, how to tell the difference and ask the right questions, and kind of dissects a little bit of how specifically for the Jehovah's Witnesses, how they reflect those cult tendencies. So there's a lot of practical information, but also a good life story that's encapsulated in this short book. Easy read, large text, some great photos from her experiences. Anyway, Rising from the Ashes of the Jehovah's Witnesses, you can get on Amazon and Lulu Publishing Company. I think it's like $14.50 for the hard copy, and it's a little bit less if you buy it on the Amazon Kindle app. So yeah, she was on the channel, actually. I interviewed her. We interviewed each other in a sense, but she was on this channel almost exactly 2 years ago when I first moved to Los Angeles. Actually, I did it in Denver, and then when I got to Los Angeles, I edited it down and added all of her music. She's also a musician. She recorded like an entire, I think it was like 20 songs, 15 or 20 songs. And so they're all like in the background in our interview, coming in and out. So yeah, she's had quite a life. She actually just released a new album, Cacophony. God, I'm gonna botch it. I should look it up. I'll put it in the notes. But you should check out her music, check out her book, and she's on the internet, so you can say hi. Her name is Denise Wise. So, okay, so my origin with this topic, I guess there's a couple things I could say. First, the short bullet list is it started in Germany when I was visiting family. So I have family there. And it wasn't family that I was interviewing, but it was a friend of a friend. And a friend of my brother's ex-wife, actually. So she left religion and became an ex-Jehovah's Witness. They got divorced at the same time. And then she met some friends on the outside. And one of them happened to be an ex-Jehovah's Witness that she had grown up with, who happened to also live in Munich. So I ended up meeting him. So that's like the short version of the story. But it wasn't just there. It wasn't just then. That's like 2016 when I was visiting family. I've been thinking about doing something like this for years for the reasons I mentioned in the previous video. But those reasons, again, in short, are all the content that's out there is kind of formulaic and the same, in that it shows Jehovah's Witnesses and it brings people in interviews, gets them to tell a very traumatic personal story that's like damaged them, and it doesn't show you that they've recovered. It just shows you this damage. It shows the religion in a bad light, which I appreciate, because I think that, well, obviously they're not doing that, and it's our responsibility, I think, to do that. So I'm glad that those exist and they serve a great purpose. There's a new one that just came out. I just happened to get to watch it. It's what's it called? Crusaders on Vice News, by a former Jehovah's Witness movie producer here in LA, who, after making like 6 incredible movies in the horror and eclectic like genre zone, realized he wanted to make something that was on this topic. Like he finally got to that point. I think that happens to a lot of people once they're out of the religion, they're living their own lives. They're like, wait a minute, I have these tools and this ability to do something more powerful or more activist in an activist vein to affect change. And I think like anyway, this particular producer decided to do that. It made a great film, but it still sort of follows that trend of like, let's do an expose on the religion by interviewing these 15 different people that don't know each other. I mean, I think I know all those people that are in that film already. We're all connected on the internet. So if you are in the activist space, they all do know each other, but they didn't know each other when they were in the religion. Um, but they're all working towards the same goal, even though they're coming from very different places on the outside. And I think another interesting thing on that topic is that the only way this religion ever has changed is if people on the outside pressure them. They don't have an internal reform, like feedback network. If you don't like what's going on in the religion and you say something, you get kicked out. So they're trying to keep things the same way. They figured out this formula that they think is like God's way or the way that they maintain control, more likely. Ultimately, it's just a control system. But they figured out the system, and if you fight against the system or you don't go with the flow or you don't just obey, they will get rid of you. And that's their power system. And I think that's how they make most of their decisions is based on power and control, or for those reasons. So it's on us as people who've left it to step up and be a voice, put our face and our body and our mind and our voice on the line and a reputation in a sense. Because now I'm just this like weird ex cult member activist. Like that's what people think of me as. But I feel it's important, and I'm happy to do that because it's like a big part of my identity, and I don't want to like hide from my identity. I want to stand up and say something. Um, anyway, those people in the film did an incredible job, and they're all genuinely great people. I've met a bunch of them now, or at least we've chatted online, and I genuinely respect everyone in that film. So props to casting, I guess. No, the guy that directed it knows exactly what he's doing and exactly who he's bringing in. And I think he did an incredible job. So for another film in that vein, it's really on the high level, and he hits a lot of powerful points. But again, it is another one of those expose style films, and I didn't want to make that. And I'm very very happy. I think that I stuck to my guns and made something very unique, and I'm excited for you to see it. But anyway, backtracking. Way before I decided to make something or thought I could or knew where to start, I was in Vietnam. I lived there at that point for about 4 years. And it was this nagging thing. I was working in films constantly, especially music related stuff. And I was working on this documentary about two women in the high mountains in Sapa, in I guess it's the low Himalayas, but the tallest mountain region of Vietnam, the North Vietnam and Chinese border. And there was this director from New York who had worked for Spike Lee and is now doing his own thing. And now he's winning at Cannes. He's got films in Berlinale. Like he's a pretty big time director at this point. He's worked on some really serious TV shows. He and a producer here out of LA, they teamed up to make this feature-length documentary over a 10-year period following two women, one who went the traditional route and like is living on the farm lifestyle as a Hmong woman in this mountain valley, and then this other woman who grew up the same exact way in the same valley, but had worked basically on a startup and had become this international traveling woman who ran a incredibly forward-thinking school, one of the first schools in the area, doing multi-language education and helping kids get higher education opportunities through grants. And it's an incredible school that I volunteered to work there. That's why I was there. I was volunteering to like help them out and help create media for them, help get them more funding. And it was my first big thing I was trying to do. But I met this not couple, they weren't together, but I met this man and this woman who were working on this other film, and they invited me to help them. So I basically volunteered to work with them for a week, and then they hired me and paid me to come back for another week, a year later. But I pitched to them. I was like, "This is my idea. I had this crazy lifestyle background, and I would like to tell this difficult, complicated story. So that's really why I'm here. That's really why I've got a camera. That's really why I'm working on videos, because that's my end goal. And they gave me a bunch of advice, and they brought me on as like to mentor me essentially in how making a movie works. And the amount I learned in that first couple of weeks working with them was like it was like a year or two of film school. It was amazing. I picked up so much, and they brought me along and showed me how not just to operate the equipment, but like philosophy of shooting and like what you're trying to show and do storytelling properly. Um, and then fast forward to Germany, I was visiting family, but I brought my camera because I guess I kind of always did. You never know what you're going to see. And I was visiting some old friends in Europe. A friend I had dated in Switzerland, and another woman I had met at an airport in uh, just to visit and say hi and hang out for a few days in Italy, and um, then go visit my family. And so that all happened. That was like 10 or so days, 7 or 10 days. I actually got to see my cousin and his wife on their honeymoon, or like a vacation. So I like filmed with them in Venice, and made a little short video for them and their time in Venice. It was really fun hanging out with them. I hadn't seen them in years, so it was like, oh, we're in Venice, and I'm like, oh, I'm in Milan, cool. So I popped over the next day, and we like hung out for a couple days, and so we like that's the last time we saw each other. That was now 2016, I think. Um, so yeah, I was traveling in Italy and Switzerland, and then made it to Germany finally. Meet my brother's ex-wife again. We've been friends since we were teenagers, and we go to this Australian concert, and there's this guy there. She's like wants me introduce me to, and he's this American guy, a gay American man who also left the religion that she had grown up with, who also moved to Munich and immigrated or is a resident there. And they've both been living there for like 8 or 10 years at this point. And he said something in this conversation, this first conversation. We talked about the religion a little bit. We talked about our background, what we're up to, what it's like living abroad, all that stuff. And then he says, "Oh, I feel like I came out twice. Like I came out as gay, but also came out of the religion." And it wasn't the first time I'd heard that. Actually, one of the guys in the film, Eric Elvendahl, he had said something like that, like the coming out experience for the LGBT community has a lot of correlations and similarities to the coming out of the religion, in terms of like you lose your support network, you don't know what friends are going to stick around, a lot of them disappear, and you have to kind of rebuild your life from scratch, and you have to take on a new identity, because if you're in the religion, you have that religious identity. Now you're out, so now what are you? You have to figure that out, or like it's obvious, or you're just anti-religion, or you're atheist, or you're who knows, maybe you become Buddhist, or you are a humanist, or whatever the identity. You have to figure it out. And like it's weird to not have an identity if you come from a place that gives you one, and forms you and like grooms you in this particular way. So I really liked that, and I thought, you know what, that's the title of the project. So that's the origin story. It's just meeting this guy and thinking about like having that click. Like he helped make it click. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I brought my camera. I have a microphone. We could do like let's just do it. Let's just make something. I don't know how it's gonna go, but let's just try something. So his name's Soren, and he's in the trailer. If you've watched the channel at all, um, he's shaved his head, and he's rolling a cigarette, and you go to a gay bar together, and he's a really funny guy. He works as a server in Munich, and anyway, really nice guy. And he actually sat down. We did two interviews. One at not the Alba, that's in Hamburg, um, in Englischer Gardens. Englischer Gardens is this huge park. The river flows through in Munich, and we're hanging on the river's edge and did like a little beach blanket chat. And then we also did like a really proper interview on his balcony at his apartment, and also in his house. Did 3 different locations, I guess, for 3. Just keep it changing it up a little bit, keep it interesting. Single camera, me holding it and asking him questions. And I haven't posted anything from him besides a trailer, but I think I used like he just like really framed that what I wanted to say so well, to launch the project and like do not the Kickstarter, but the Seed&Spark crowdfunding video. We use that to help like kind of frame what we're trying to say and what the point of these videos are. But I do want to release his full interview at some point because I feel like he dives into some pretty interesting stuff related to family and like that the barrier that's erected and also like what that's like when someone comes out and you get to have them back in your life again. He's a very powerful story. So props to Soren for kind of kickstarting this whole thing. And then once that was rolling, I was just on a short vacation. I extended my trip for a week to actually do that with him. Um, and then I went back to Hanoi where I'd been living then at that point for 4 years. And I asked around on some social forums and asked some friends if they knew anyone. And I'd actually, weirdly enough, I had been living with an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I didn't even know it for months in Hanoi. I didn't even find out until she was like injured on the floor. She'd like been in a motorcycle accident, so her knee was kind of damaged, and so we were kind of like babying her as four of us live in. It's really common in Hanoi to have like a townhouse with like 4 bedrooms and then like the living room and kitchen at the bottom. And so like she couldn't make it up the stairs, so we were like made a whole bed for her in front of the TV in the living room, and we were hanging out like basically every night. Like the whole crew of our house would just hang out, and then sometimes she'd fall asleep. But we had a lot more conversations then than we did any other time before that. And at some point, she was lamenting this conversation she had with her mom, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And she told me that her mom was in this strange religion and it was really traumatic, and like her sister is still dealing with something, and there's this whole thing. And I was like, "Oh, it sounds really relatable. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness." She's like, "No shit, me too. What? How do we never talk about this?" So we had been living together for like 4 or 5 months at that point and had no idea that each other were both former Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, and so I tried to get her to do an interview, but she was really resistant to it. She kind of didn't want to identify with that at all, and I had to respect that. I did try to fund we'd already done some motorcycle trips together to like national parks and uh, indulge a bit in the rainforest for a day and just partying basically with friends. And I wanted to recreate essentially that trip by just funding a whole new trip where we go on a physical journey, maybe go on like a existential journey, and then I get some interviews, during that whole process, and it would be a really cool way to show off Vietnam. Um, she declined, sadly. I did film with her at a rave where she was dancing, and I was hoping to put that in as like an Easter egg, but it didn't make any cuts yet. Um, but what came out of those conversations was that there was this young Vietnamese woman who had joined the religion against her parents' will as a high school student because she had become friends with a foreigner who had been raised in Vietnam as a teenager, and they became friends. And then this girl was like going through teenage stuff and had a hard time making friends. And this girl was like a Jehovah's Witness, and she befriended her, and so like that became a friendship bond. So she started joining the group there, the Jehovah's Witness group. It's actually illegal and banned in Vietnam, but there are small groups that the government kind of puts up with it. I don't think they're allowed to knock on doors, but they do go out and like go to like parks and they used to do this cart witnessing thing. And they do leave flyers. A buddy of mine from South Africa, him and his partner had a flyer for the memorial that they sent me. Like once they found out I was a witness, I had been a witness. Anyway, this young girl agreed to a conversation, and then we had a conversation, and she's like, "Let's just do it." So we were at this cafe bar midday. It's quiet, so we went up on the rooftop and did a little short interview. And then I hired my buddy Vincent to come and shoot a second camera, help me set up a proper interview at this cafe where all the music and artists kind of hang out around evening time. So we had this pretty long, pretty funny interview with her, and a bunch of that content made it into the teaser. But of course, that's very short and just gives you a little teaser of her and that story. But it was kind of cool because we got to show off Vietnam. We went out to like a park in a nearby town with a cave and like a temple. And I kind of wanted to show like what it's like to be in Vietnam, and that there's this other religion. And it's really hard to describe the religion that's dominant in North Vietnam because it isn't Buddhism, although there's a lot of correlations and a lot of like bleed over Taoism and Buddhism bleed over, but I wouldn't say, I don't even know that it's properly Taoist either. It's very much like a family oriented. Um, Anyone who's older than you has more power and gets more respect. Um, and they honor you on your death anniversary until no one remembers who you are anymore. And even then, now that there's photographs, they probably will still like burn an incense to you. Um, Even if they, once they know you're a great grandparent or a great great grandparent or whatever. And there's something really deeply respectful I love about that. That's really understandable. Like, of course, the people that you've known and loved are to be revered and given respect, um, in life and in death. And it's like so relatable. Other than that, I observed zero after 5 years and dating three women there. I observed zero religious faith, which I thought was fascinating. And like for me, living there after leaving this religion was like it was a few years after I left that I went to Vietnam, but it was such a breath of fresh air to have like no religion, nothing faith based, nothing supernatural. Although, okay, those same people that are Taoists or whatever their family spiritual thing is believe in the spirits of the dead and believe in lost spirits and souls and are a bit superstitious. Not everyone, of course, and to different degrees. But aside from that, which for me was very understandable because Jehovah's Witnesses are incredibly superstitious. They think there's demons everywhere and they're out to get you and you should be afraid of them. And you can't buy used secondhand things because there'll be demons attached to them and they will control your life. So I was like, oh, that's the only thing you got going for you. Like, that's like child's play. Like, I grew up with weird, dark, supernatural stuff. So yeah, that's like not really religion to me. That's like just par for the course. I don't know, with humanity or something. People believe in ghosts. But anyway, I interviewed her, and then there was one more person. Oh, I took a break to come back to the States to do some work. And it was New Year's. I had a break at work. So I went and filmed with my buddy Ross. And then Ross and I did like a really big thing for like 2 weeks, just like filmed constantly, recorded audio constantly, like tried to just like break down all of these topics and like kind of do like year one. Like, I just left the religion. Let's talk about this religion. Like, no one knows anything about it. We have to expose it. And kind of get into some pretty heavy stuff. But I learned all what you shouldn't do when it comes to making a film with Ross, unfortunately. So there's only so much content that'll be out there from that experience. But he's an old great friend, and we did make like an 18-minute release with him, and that sort of launched the whole thing. So, and what's interesting about all three of those people, Soren and oh, I'm forgetting her name at the moment. Soren and Ross and the young Vietnamese woman are all bisexual or gay, and it wasn't exactly on purpose, but it really lends to what we were trying to do. And I don't think Ross or Chi, her name's Chi. I don't think Ross or Chi say anything about their sexual orientation at all in any of the interviews. But and it's not really relevant, to be honest, because it's not about that. It's about leaving the religion. And then after that, I filmed with a lot of other people who were like, we just did like sexuality wasn't like it's never been a topic. So um I've interviewed with lots of different people from different backgrounds and sexual orientations, and still never really make an issue out of it unless that's important for them and they want to talk about it. In Soren's case, that was a big deal for him because when he came out gay, he had to leave the religion because you can't be gay in the religion, even if like it's really hard to be you can't be an openly gay person and call yourself a non-practicing gay. Like, they say you can, but like no one does that. Like, you just get out once you've come out internally or externally, like you will leave. And so he knew that there was no future for him in the religion. So he's like, all right, I guess I need to tell everyone that this is my way that I am. So I'm now leaving the religion, which is maybe the healthiest thing you possibly do, because it's way too common that people actually commit suicide in his situation. He does tell a really interesting story that I hope to release in that very first interview, where there was a married man who had kids that were Soren's peers, And that married man took Soren aside and told him that he's also gay, but if you get married, like there is still a path for you and you can like still make it to, Jehovah's paradise or whatever. Like sounds like a weird casino or like like a dark weird playland. Um or a weird video game or something, Jehovah's Paradise. Uh anyway, this guy was like basically saying like you can pray the gay away and get married and have sex with someone you're not attracted to and have a baby and it'll all be great. Or you can be an elder or something. But anyway, he didn't make that choice. And I'm sure he's all the better for it. Like, no question. But then I moved to the States. So I actually cut 3 episodes with Ross from that content and then didn't release them. They're actually on the Patreon. If you're a patron, you get to see them, but the public can't see them because out of those 3, we made like one really good cut. That's 18 minutes. I made like 3 15-minute things. So we really cut it down. But you can see the original ideas if you want. And it's all everything I've done is set to music written by ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So we did a lot of that with Ross, and it's like my big experimentation. And I worked really closely with the music creators to get that, I don't know, to make that work. And that sort of is how we launched the crowdfund, because they became like integral to everything I was doing. Was Eric and Cindy and Chad from High TV. And they gave up all their music. They're like, if you're doing this project, yes, you can use all this music. Which is, their music's incredible and emotive and really on topic. And I've met now a lot of artists in the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who have made incredible music that deals with this topic, and also just music that's great in quality that doesn't deal with the topic, but it's probably in there somewhere on some themes in their lyrics, but it's not like overtly about the religion or their experience. But we launched the crowdfund, and that was a huge learning curve. I bought this book called The Crowd Sorceress. Actually, I'll grab it real quick. This book, I was visiting. Actually, it was on the trip. I was visiting Ross when we filmed, and I saw it. We were at this incredible bookstore in Portland. I can't remember the name of. That's really famous. And I saw this and I was like, oh, crowdsource. Like I always wanted to like learn about that and crowdfunding. Crowdsource is like this big, wide, gaping thing, and then crowdfunding is like one narrow piece of that. But she has done a ton of stuff with Kickstarter and gotten lots of people incredible amount of money, like many millions of dollars for like a book or something. Anyway, so yeah, I read this and I was like, I wake up in the morning. I had this like nice apartment by myself, and like get up, read a chapter, and like go implement the chapter. And this is all like, it took me like 2 months to prepare to start the crowdfund. And part of that is just like community building and getting people to know about your project by hand, like writing them emails and writing them on social, and getting their kind of buy-in and let them know what you're trying to do and get them to help post about your thing and share about your project. And our project, of course, is going to be make a feature film called XJW Coming Out. And it would be like, use the interviews I have only cut little pieces out of, use the whole interview and like interview a bunch more people. And through like that outreach, I met a lot of Denver-based Jehovah's Witnesses, and then a bunch of people all over the country on the internet. But I started interviewing the people located where I was in Denver. And I started cutting some of that stuff. And then I put that out during the crowdfund. So that boosted our exposure. And then like Lloyd Evans interviewed me about the project, and he asked me to make 2 cuts just for him, for his channel. And that hugely boosted our reach, because people saw like the quality was like way beyond anything else people had done in recent history with the religion. It was very much a different theme and different focus, very much a different style. And it was fun. Like those are exactly what I wanted to make and what I thought we would be making. I ended up making something very different, but like that I think is way stronger than what I'd originally planned. I didn't quite know how to thread it all together, and that's why I stuck with the Minneapolis music story, because it is everyone knows, everyone is there for it, everyone is there together. They all made content and videos, like many films together, made music together, and they all went through something together that was really traumatic, and they all came on the other side of that and had something to say about it. So it was like the thread line through that story was so strong that I couldn't see really anything as strong as that, and just was like, you know what, I'm gonna just film with them first, and I'll film a bunch more. And I did. I filmed with like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven other people after that in the same month, thinking that I would cut it all together somehow. And I got back to Denver after shooting that. And I was like, man, like, no way. Like, none of this, none of them have any correlation to each other. It's so hard. But this one group, the original five people, this original story that I knew was there this whole time, truly was there. Um, but yeah, anyway, that's jumping ahead. That's after the crowdfund. Leading up to the crowdfund, I found like 75 Jehovah's Witness or ex Jehovah's Witness groups on Facebook. There was a handful of people on Tumblr, which supported actually the crowdfund campaign efforts, which is really cool. Um, Instagram had a big following, and a lot of people, like, there's a ton of witnesses and ex witnesses on Instagram. So that actually became a really important platform, but it's such a pain in the ass to use. And I think it's terrible for films, honestly. It's like you can take a picture of a cookie all day long, like another cookie. I've got 17 cookies from one baking sheet, like 17 posts. Like a film, it's like I got to go cut a piece of movie and export it in a certain frame, and then like you can't, like, you used to not be able to upload from the computer. You had to like put it on your telephone and then upload it using the app, which is such a pain. And like they didn't have Reels and IGTV then, so it was like nothing about Instagram worked. And I ended up meeting these women on my outreach process in January, February. We did the whole launch in March, and they took over the Instagram and like made a whole thing out of it, which is really cool. It's called according to Alex Daly, it's called a, a takeover, I think. So they were posting like every other day, some some posts and text and hashtags and doing the whole thing that I now do. But there was no one otherwise working on that app. But it was awesome because that really, like, like sharing the audience. And I feel like a lot of these people that I mentioned before, like Mentally Diseased, Jexa 2020, Eve 2.0, John Maple, um, the more that everyone collaborates and like shares each other's posts, like the more unified and the more reach we all get. 'Cause we're like, oh, these 1,000 people like this person, these 3,000 people like this person. Like if you share each other's posts and like all of a sudden they're exposed to that other person, and they might like them, and then follow them, and like help share their stuff too. So you grow your network. It's almost like we need like a radio station model, like an old analog model where like one radio station would have like 20 DJs in a day, or 24 DJs, like one for every hour or something. Whereas like now it's like we have the entire human race on one platform, YouTube, and you're in competition with a cooking show. You're in competition with country music. You're in competition with like people like playing with cats and like cat videos. Like you can't compete with cat videos. They're so good. So it's like, how do we get everyone to like come together? And I feel like I was just seeing what was possible when I was doing the crowdfund and when I was leading up to it. But really, people came together at that time to help support my idea of a project, and they trusted me to make something. And I'm so happy to say that, like, hey, we made something, and I think it's better than my original idea in a big way. And now it's winning awards at film festivals, and 10 film festivals have picked it up and said, hey, we want you to help market our film festival by putting our thing on your poster, and your social media posts. So that feels amazing. It's like incredibly validating to have 10 festivals that are well known and important ask for that, basically, and like offer that. And especially the award, it's like, of course I'm gonna share the hell out of my Genre Blast Best Documentary Feature Award forever. Genre Blast Best Documentary Feature. They're amazing. There's such a good crew of people, but yeah, I'm extra biased now because they love my project. Um, but it's a partnership I'm making anyway. Kind of want to explore this whole radio idea. Like when Jexit 2020 got his channel demonetized, probably by the Jehovah's Witnesses or like a apologist. he did a big post about it, and I got to thinking like, wait, why don't you just get on my channel and like put your stuff on mine? Like, why don't we make a channel that includes all these different people? Well, it sounds like a radio station. And I pitched it to him, and he's like, oh, I have a Patreon already, but YouTube's demonetized. I was like, oh, okay, got it. But like I want to support all these different people, even though I feel like we're all in very different places. We all have a very similar goal, which is awareness, and we want to see some change. We want to have at least reform in the religion, if not rescue people out of the cage that they're in. And the cage is unlocked. Just open the door. Like, just please walk out. It's so easy. You don't have to go to these meetings, especially if they're on fucking Zoom. Don't open your laptop. Definitely don't use video. Don't listen. To turn the audio off. Like, they're saying nothing of value. You've heard it all before. Anyway, whatever. That religion's so ridiculous and pointless, and I don't know how anyone is in it. It's just bad humanity, bad part of humanity. Yeah, anyway, so there's like 5 women that got involved and helped elevate our project, that got a ton of followers, and it got a ton of people paying attention, at least for that time period. I don't know if they still are. And then what else happened? Oh, yeah, Lloyd Evans thing was a big boost. This guy in Hong Kong, total long shot. I was really digging for what's going on in Asia, because I know there's an Asian presence in the Jehovah's Witness world. And Japan is like quite a few in Japan. I don't know why. I found all these ex-Jehovah's Witnesses on Twitter from Japan, nowhere else, just Twitter. But they wouldn't communicate with me. Like, I was writing in Japanese. I was like using Google Translate and making very simple sentences so they wouldn't screw up too much. Yeah, whatever. A light just went out. It's fine. But his name's Xiao Yue John, and he's an evangelical minister whose hobby it is to go out with a megaphone on the street and all over Hong Kong, and like basically harass Jehovah's Witness cart witnessing people until they walk away. Like, he'll just bring up like contradictions to their beliefs and like shout it on the street, like next to them. I mean, he has like legit conversations with them too, but he basically uses exactly Jehovah's Witness tactics to Jehovah's Witnesses using the Bible. He's like, well, I know you believe this, right? Like, yeah, I believe that. Okay. Well, here's what the Bible actually says on that. And he does exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses do to other religions. He does it back to them, which is pretty entertaining. He does it all in English because not all in English. He does it in English when the people speak English. He's really fluent in English, but he also speaks traditional Mandarin, and probably Cantonese because he's from there. But anyway, he was like, "You're not a business person. I can tell. Let me help you with your crowdfund." And he came in and he's like, "I'm going to do $1,000 match campaign, and you're going to make a video about it tonight and post it immediately and show me the video when you're done. And it needs to be like this." And I was like, that's exactly an amazing tool, like, and also an amazing offer. So I immediately did that. And that coincided directly with like getting the John Cedars, Lloyd Evans video out, where he was able to show off our video product, send people to the channel, and then they're able to see this video that says, "Hey, if you contribute to the campaign tonight, it's worth double. So like up to $1,000. So you give $10, it's worth 20. If you give 100, it's worth 200. If you give 1,000, it's worth 2,000. Up to $1,000. Like, this guy John's gonna pay. Xiao Yue John." Like, okay. And then he's like, I'm like, it worked. Holy crap. Like, dude, we did it. He's like, okay, tell him I'll do it again. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I'll put 2,000 in as long as we get up to 2,000. And he's like, make it 3. And then pretty soon, like in one night, we went from having 2 weeks, we got $2,000, which is already awesome, but we wouldn't have gotten it because like Seed&Spark's all or nothing. You have to have 80% of your goal, or they won't really let you have any of the money. They send it all back to the original donors. So anyway, and we went from $2,000 to $9,000, which was our goal. And then we had stretch goals, and people came out for that and kept supporting and donating and funding it, contributing to it. So that pushed us up to 135% of our goal, which we used to go to Mexico and fund. I flew to Mexico, and like, I was going on vacation anyways, with my camera, and I worked with another ex-witness who's there's not very many ex-witnesses who are very vocal in the Spanish world. Um, so that was really cool to make some videos. Those are going to be out this month. I'm going to put them out, or in October. There's, I think, 5 or 6 videos from him. They're all very short, concise. He makes incredibly bold points, all in Spanish. I'll put English subs in. Um, and yeah, that was cool to be able to do that. And then let's see, yeah, that was just like, that was such a success to be able to like go from 2 weeks of like, oh, I don't think we're gonna make it. We have a 4-week campaign, and we're like 10% of our goal, 20% of our goal, and then went from 20% to 120% like overnight in 24 hours. It was incredible. Um, so then I went out pretty quickly. I packed my bags and went out to Minneapolis to capture that story, and that went well. I didn't know it was going to go well, but it ended up going very well. I ended up flying my buddy up from North Carolina on my airline miles, and my one of the guys in the film put us up for 2 weeks in his like upstairs. He had a spare room, and we used that as our base, which is very generous of him and his family. And we filmed 7 days, 4 interviews, and 3 days of it was over 10 days, 7 days out of 10 days. And we filmed a bunch of like lifestyle stuff and some extra interviews. And we went on site to the shooting spot. We also shot the live performance stuff that you see in the film. And then I was exhausted, but then I went and shot with 7 more people over the next month. And it was also a crazy coincidence, which is amazing, is when I was in Vietnam, there was this guy who had grown up in my hometown, Wausau, Wisconsin. I'm from a nearby town, Anago. He's from Wausau, and he is also a filmmaker. I didn't know that. I hadn't thought of him or talked to him since I probably met him 5 times in my life. I knew who he was. I knew he existed, and he was like 6 years younger than me or something. He had been living with his partner in Saigon for like a year or so, doing filmmaking stuff and just living the life over there, having a good time in Southeast Asia. And I had been living in Hanoi all those years. And so he hits me up. He's like, "Hey, I saw that you posted some stuff about your project." And this is when I was still in Vietnam before the crowdfund. And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool." And he's like, "Hey, I live in Saigon, but we're about to move back to America. We're gonna do a trip to the north. Do you want to meet up?" So we met up. He joined my other Jehovah's Witness friend on this motorcycle trip to go to the jungle. That same trip I was mentioning before, and we shot some video and did some goofy stuff in there, which is awesome. And then when I was after shooting this, I went to Wausau. I hit them up, and they put me up in their basement. They had a house they were renting, and they let me stay with them. It was awesome to like hang out with them all the time and like have this camaraderie of being ex-witnesses, have it both being out of the religion and also be filmmakers. So like we really connected, and he helped me actually like cut the story tighter on an unrelated, like a Vietnam music doc that I did called The Record Anthology, which is out on Vimeo right now. And I also put a link in the Patreon. It's for free. Anyway, that was like such a cool coincidence and like a really cool thing to connect back in my hometown. Like, oh yeah, we've all lived in Vietnam and like traveled and do art, you know. Absolutely love that connection that came out of this. And the thing is, I guess like to sum this all up is I put myself out there to work hard on something to tell our collective story in a sense. It's my story. I'm not in it at all, but it's like it's a story I wanted to make, and I'm able to tell the story I want to tell about my life through these lives of other people that I was close to and have a powerful story to tell, and they're super creative and their music's amazing. Anyway, I was able to do that, but the outreach that I got from doing this whole thing, putting myself out there, is that I met all these incredible other people who also are doing similar things and also want to make something and also want to tell a story and want to collaborate on it. And a lot of these people live in very different places, but just the outpouring of support has been really incredible. And I don't get as much of that as I did like at the time, but I keep being hit up by amazing artists. Even 2 weeks ago, I was at a film festival, and one of the artists that was featured in the festival was an ex-witness. We got to hang out and meet, and her music's amazing. Her name's Geneva Jacuzzi. I'm gonna keep on plugging her shit because it's so good. She lives right here, and it was so cool. Just like out of nowhere, this person's like, "Oh, I want to meet you." I'm like, whoa, all we have a similar background. Crazy. Okay. There's another couple artists and bands here I've been meeting recently that featured Wesley, uh, Wesley David music on Instagram. His music's great. He has a whole album out on topic. There's another one called the Bloody Tuesdays. I'm hoping to meet up here with in LA. They live here. Um, Sapphire Phoenix is doing some cool stuff, like all right here, and it's just like they're coming. It's like people are reaching out to me now, which is great. Like it feels like in a way like I've arrived or something. Like I want to keep doing this. This is my dream. So it's really like deeply rewarding for me personally to do this. And if you like it, tell me because that will keep me motivated to keep going. Because I don't know if anyone likes it. I don't get a lot of like, there's not a lot of feedback loops unless you say something. Um, Subscribe, like, and if you're willing to throw $1 my way, great. If you're willing to throw more, we're giving away a free soundtrack to the teaser, which is like it's a 6-song EP by High TV, and they're an awesome band. I am trying to elevate the hell out of them, and I hope you like them too. You can listen to it already. It's on Bandcamp. And then we're also giving away for that $20, that same $20 one-time payment. You get the soundtrack and a ticket to see our film at the upcoming festival, which I can't tell you what it is yet. You can find out if you search hard enough on our page, but I'll let you know soon because they're going to announce it very soon, like October 1st. Anyway, I guess that's like a good like intro, not to intro, it's a 46-minute video, but it's like a solid backstory to where I'm coming from and what it took to get here. Like I'm hoping like, the crowdfund, like we got the money and that was great. I could have just gotten a job and like that would have been way easier actually. But the beautiful thing about the crowdfund is that it's an audience building activity. And so like that's what I'm really trying to do now. Like I'm asking you for $1, but I really just want you to like follow the project and show your support in some way. Like if you like or subscribe, that's awesome. If you share it, that's huge. And if you give $1, it's like, okay, yeah, you're on the team basically. And I will email you shit and we can have a relationship if that's interesting to you. But at least you can watch all of season 1. You can watch the new season 2 content. You can watch the behind the scenes content that's up on Patreon. You can watch some of the exclusive stuff that no one sees. That's not going to go public ever. That's only for patrons. Some of the experimental stuff, the making of the feature and the making of the music videos in the feature, that's up. And there's even a video from our editor on how she cut the story for the feature back around Christmas time last year, I think it was. That was really cool. And then Ryan and I, the main guy in the film, we did 5 episodes that are up on Instagram and Patreon and YouTube. I think those are all out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then him and I are going to start doing a weekly thing on Thursdays. It probably won't be every Thursday, but it'll probably be most Thursdays. And I'm hoping to go live stream with him. And we're going to bring on guests. So I'm looking for a guest for upcoming Thursdays. If you're an artist or musician and you're interested, you can reach out and we can talk about that. But yeah, you can support this for $1 or more, or just watch because we're going to put most of it up for free. But we'd love your support in any way. Thank you for paying attention. And if you made it to the end of this video, I must have some kind of speaking skills. I appreciate you. Take care. See you in the next one.